Welcome to the Paintbrush Prairie podcast. I'm Kenzie Ashcraft, a boutique owner, firefighter wife, and mama of 2 cowgirls, homesteading on a cattle ranch in Oklahoma.
And I'm Talia, a Western artist and illustrator, mama of 2, and wife of a mountain man, raising babies in the mountains of Utah.
Together, we share a passion for the Western lifestyle, homemaking, and Indian paintbrush flowers.
We're here to inspire and encourage you as we each create a simple but beautiful life on the prairie. Welcome to the podcast. All right, you guys, we have another fabulous episode for you today.
It's one of our favorite activities.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be a fun one. I think every one of you should probably love it as much as we do, but we're going to talk all things thrifting and antiquing today. So, Kenzie is the expert in this area. She's been doing a whole bunch of vintage shop updates lately where she's found some absolute gems of some really cool Western vintage items. And so she's going to give us her insight today all about thrifting. So, where do you want to start?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I do enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun. I like stress-free shopping. You know, it's not like, okay, I have to go to the grocery store and get all of these things, or we need fall clothes, so I have this list that I have to get, you know, so it's kind of leisure shopping. I think it is so much fun to like come across diamonds in the rough, like a really cool vintage Western art piece or an old cast iron skillet or denim jacket from long ago that still has lots of life left in it. So I think it's a lot of fun. I like to incorporate lots of vintage pieces into my home personally. I love mixing. I'm not so much farmhouse style, but I like kind of rustic Western too. So I kind of mesh the two together. I don't really have a word for my style of decorating, but I like to incorporate a lot of vintage pieces in my home. And I love being able to go and find those and make our space look unique and different and not something that you would find, you know, at Hobby Lobby. Not saying that's a bad thing, but just having your own unique style that you can incorporate pieces that someone else used once upon a time. So anyway, I feel like we have some pretty cool antique stores here in Oklahoma, especially when I'm looking for things like that because it's kind of a Western state, cowboy state. So I can usually find some pretty neat things. We have a couple of local antique stores that I can pop into and find some cool stuff. But some of the best things I have ever found have been in places like Sheridan, Wyoming, Montana, of course. And so I think when you're out looking for a specific style, like cowboy, Western, rustic stuff, if you will intentionally seek out places like those areas or like, for instance, like Texas or Round Top or whatever, you're more than likely going to be able to find your personal style there before you find it somewhere else.
So the way that I describe your style, I don't know if you would agree with me, but I call it like Western farmhouse.
Yeah, that works.
Because it's like, I mean, it's like definitely like vintage and rustic, but it doesn't fit with like the like commercial farmhouse style, I guess. And it definitely has like a Western flavor. So that's just what
that works
that's
for
what
me.
I came up with.
Well, and like pretty much all of my furniture except like my bed and a couple other things I have in my house is all hand-me-downs. So like even my couch and love seat and chair are the items I had growing up in my parents' house. It's over 20 years old. and it's still doing great. I don't necessarily think to have like a beautiful, warm, elegant, classy, whatever home, you have to have new stuff. So I think it can look just as good with hand-me-downs. So.
Yeah. And in fact, I will say that your house is more inviting and more cozy and more eclectic, I guess, because it is like each piece has a story and each piece has a history. And so, and everything is somewhat unique, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, the decor that everyone bought at Target this season,
Yeah.
or like the IKEA couches that everyone has that are like just not appealing. But I think that having collected items makes your house much more interesting.
Yeah, like even my curtains, my grandmother made them for me out of a Western fabric I had found online. So it's like little special things that just make me like love my home and enjoy it because it's like it has a story to tell. And like on my Instagram bio, I have intentional living on the Oklahoma Prairie. And like I try to incorporate that in all facets of my life, like even when it comes to decorating, like intentionally picking things that don't necessarily like they don't just take up space, but they have a story or we just love them or they serve a purpose. And so I always try to have that in the back of my head when I am antiquing or thrifting too.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing is like you can tailor it to be your own style like you were talking about. So if you want it to be that like ultra Western feel, then you can definitely search for items like when you're out and about and have some things that you're like, I know if I see this, I'm gonna buy it. There's no guarantee that I'm
Yeah.
gonna see it, but like that's the kind of stuff I'm into. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but just I like to have when I am trying to decorate a room or like even when I was doing my kids' playroom, like there was a few things that I was like, I know for sure I want, this and this and this. And so I just like keep a little note on my phone of like the pieces that I'm looking for. And if I, am able to go and grab a few things from an antique store or just like the regular thrift shop, I will just like review that list before I go and just be like, okay, if I see this, I'm going to get this. And then there's other things that
Mm-hmm.
I don't have necessarily written down, but like they're kind of in my head of like cool things or things that I like. And so then, when
Yeah.
you're there and you're looking and that stuff is there, it's like it jumps out at you and you're like, oh, I'm going to buy that because I've been
Yeah.
wanting that and I kind of forgot about it,
Well, I even have like I call it a someday tote where I put, if I find, unique things that I'm like, man, I would probably never come across this again. But I don't necessarily have a spot for it yet, then I'll put it in there, depending on the size. Like I'm not going to just store a whole bunch of stuff, but I'll do that if it's like something I'm like, I'll want to put this in our house that we plan to build someday if we get the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity. So I have a someday tote that I do put those kind of items in.
That's a good idea. I kind of did that like when I was first married.
Kind of like a hope chest.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Cause like, before I got married and then when we were first married, before I had kids, I would like collect little things. Like when I think it was, I can't remember if I was pregnant with Cheyenne or if it was like before I got pregnant, but I knew we were going to start trying or something. I can't remember, but there was a vintage market and I went there and I got a few things and I found like some vintage like alphabet blocks
Mm-hmm.
and just like, they weren't expensive or anything, but I was like, oh, that would be really cute for like the nursery one day or,
Yeah.
and so just having some things in your mind. And like, that's the cool thing about having Pinterest too, is like you can make your board of all of the things that you like, and then those things are already in your brain. Like
Yes.
recently, I mean, I like so, you can't see it in, like, obviously this is podcast, but if you're watching the video, there's like a woven basket behind me, and I'm not really like very versed on if it's authentic or not. I'm not very good at that stuff yet. I'm learning that stuff, but I knew that I wanted some, but there's a few online sellers that typically have them, but I'm always too late to get them from the online sellers. I always miss out. And so I just happened to be at a local vintage shop, and they had like 4 of them, and I ended up buying 3 of them because they were all cute, and they were all totally my style, fit my decor and everything, and it just kind of fell into my lap that way. So it's nice to have just a list of things that you need.
Yeah. So what are some of your like favorite things that you like to thrift or find at an antique store? Like, I have a certain category or okay, so for instance, like I love finding, like we talked about earlier, I love looking and finding cast iron stuff because that stuff I'm actually going to use. It's already broken in and it's good. It's like really good cast iron stuff. Or like I love finding Breyer horses. Because I have all of mine from when I was a little girl that my mom saved, but I'm constantly looking because my girls play with them all the time, and more often than not, we'll have horses with broke legs we can't fix, so I'm kind of replacing some of those, or like cool vintage Western jeans or jackets or whatever. So what are some of your favorite like categories that you like to find?
So all of those.
Yeah.
I am like, if I see a cast iron or a Dutch oven or anything like that, like those are just like gems, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the good stuff. So I'll definitely try and grab those, unless it's like way expensive and I just can't afford it at the time. But if I have the
Right.
money,
Yeah.
and I will totally go for that. Obviously, like a Breyer horse, I never find them around here. They don't really pop up very often. But if I do see it, like that's like a done deal.
Mm-hmm.
I always look for art because if it's an original, it could be really valuable, and you might not know it, and the person at the shop might not know it. Even if it is a print, like I got a couple of prints at my local antique store, and they were like $2 each. And one is a Charlie Russell, and the other one, I don't know the artist, but it's like a
Oh my
scene
word.
of like Custer's Last Stand. And I was just like, this is so cool. Like they weren't like super fancy, like, but they were still cool Western prints. I mean, and so it was just like, I always look for those things because I would rather, if I can get a print, a lot of times especially if you can get like a limited edition print, then they are more valuable. And they're, you can just put those in a cool vintage frame. If you can find frames, that's a really good one because
Mm-hmm.
old frames are usually more quality. They're made a lot better than new frames, and usually it's cheaper than buying them new. Even, like Hobby Lobby has a lot of sales, but most of their frames are not the best.
Yeah.
So I do look for the art kind of stuff. If there's like sculptures of any kind, like bronzes or
Mm-hmm.
any type of like figurines that are like cool like that, like porcelain figures. I don't know. Those are just kind of things that I'm drawn to. Like my grandma, when she passed, there was a lot of like objects that she had, just like that
Mm-hmm.
she would have on her mantle and stuff. And when they were kind of like giving those things away, I claimed a lot of them because no one else really like cared about them. But for me, like those are the things that I remembered. Like I remembered always going to grandma's house and like seeing that on her mantle. So, you know, those
Yeah,
like
it means
figures and things
something.
like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I look at like, I like finding like old boots. That's a fun
Yes.
one. Or bags, like purses, and like obviously
Yes.
this is a little bit more rare, and especially where I'm at, but like if you can find old horse tack or like livestock tools, like they're, I don't know, at this antique shop that was down from, but it's near my house, but they're kind of expensive. So, sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to pay that much for that. At least not today if I like really, really, really want it. But if I can find a good deal on it, there were like some old like draft horse collars that they had for a
Mm-hmm.
while. And then like old branding irons, old chaps. But those are just like much harder to find around, like right around my area. And like you said, for me, I don't have anything that's like really Western immediately close to my house. So I actually have to drive like probably at least an hour to go find a cool vintage shop that might have some cool Western items. So if I'm looking for something in particular, like for my kids' playroom, I knew I wanted to find a pair of leather kids' chaps to hang and like so that they could wear them in like dress up, but I also wanted them to actually be able to use them like for riding if we wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So I like scoured eBay for like a solid month looking for chaps, and then I finally found some. It was like the most terrible pictures, but they said they were authentic leather, and I was like, well, they look like they're kind of, kind of good.
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up coming, and they were like handmade leather chaps, really nice quality, and they were, I don't even know, something ridiculous, like $20 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are those kind of things, like, or if there's, I mean, probably one of the biggest things I look for is books, because I'm
Yes.
a book collector. And so,
Same.
especially children's books, I will buy like all of the children's books, whether it's like Western or classics or anything that has a
Mm-hmm.
hardbound, like if it's hardbound cover or anything that looks like it's like 1970s and older. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have a bunch of little golden books that were published in like the 30s and 40s that I've found just like over time. I will
Mm-hmm.
always stop and look at all the books, like and even so I go to like the regular thrift store quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
um because I can find frames there, and like every once in a while you might find like a home decor item or something unique, but I usually go for the books. And I am the person that will sit there and I will look at the like kids book section, and I will look through
Mm-hmm.
every single book on the shelf. Like I will
Yeah.
scan every single one to like be able to find the good kids books, like because that's such a big deal to me. But those are kind of my things. And then anything that's like hunting related, like
Mm-hmm.
or trapping or fishing, those are kind of like how I decorate some of the things that like in my house is like with hunting stuff. So we have like a old trap that like hangs on our wall, just like a foot trap. And I'm working on collecting some more items that are like hunting related to put in our bedroom. Just
Yeah.
I just like that old like cabin-y type feel. So
Yeah, I like mixing that in there too. Zach will bring me like sheds he finds out in the hayfield,
yeah.
and I'll put them like on our kitchen table and stuff.
Yeah, we have a lot of antlers for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the books too. Our local library does like a used book sale, but they'll also take like in donations, and that's how they kind of help fund a lot of the activities they have. And they have it, I think, twice a year, but usually you can find some really good books there too. But I'm the same. Like my mom, or I guess my grandmother, kept a lot of my mom's books from when she grew up, and they're like some of the best Like, I feel like literature has gone downhill so much in the last, like, just in the last, like, 10 years, but especially for, like, kids' books.
Yep.
So I'm the same, but I love, I decorate them in my house, here in my office, but, like, old cowboy books, like Will James and, just, like, Charlie Russell, books and stuff, like the one I got you for your birthday, and I love, like, finding those. Like, I get so excited when I come across stuff like that, and it'll be marked, like, sometimes they know what they have and they mark it up.
Mm-hmm.
But then sometimes you'll come across a book and it's like, oh, it's just an old cowboy book, like $2, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm
Yes.
so excited.
Yes.
But I love also finding, like, old Tonka toys, metal toys. Like, I'll have to share on our Instagram page, like, my little Tonka truck, my little horse truck and trailer that I put all of my writing utensils in on my desk. But I like to decorate in my kids' room with that too, and they play with them. So it's like multi-purpose.
Yeah.
Here at the Paintbrush Prairie, one of our favorite ways to preserve food is through canning. We talk a lot about it here on the podcast, and we are so excited to share a company with you that we absolutely love and are excited to partner with as homesteaders and homemakers. 4 Jars USA is a family-owned canning lid company. Their canning lids are crafted with utmost care using high-quality metal that resists bending, ensures durability and longevity. To combat the common issue of rusting, they have incorporated stainless steel into their lid composition. Compared to conventional lids with a thickness of 0.10 to 0.12 millimeters, their lids boast a superior metal thickness of 0.18 millimeters. They personally subject their lids to rigorous testing, ensuring their exceptional performance under pressure and during water baths. They stand behind the reliability and strength of all of their lids. Additionally, 4 Jars lids feature high-quality food-grade silicone that effectively prevents leakage, allowing you to confidently preserve your favorite homemade dishes. With their lids, you can savor the authentic taste of your beloved foods for extended periods. We are proud to support and partner alongside 4 Jars USA as an affiliate for their canning lid company. You can use our code PAINT10 for 10% off any order at 4jars.shop.
And then one of my other are you recording this episode for YouTube?
No, I forgot to hit record.
Okay. Well, if not, I was going to show it. I was going to show it on the video.
Okay, it's recording now.
Okay, I was going to show it on the video, so hang on. But, like, this is kind of like my signature thing now, is, like, my cowboy boots that I put my wildflowers in. Like, I shared this on my personal Instagram all summer when I would, like, cut flowers, because that's what I put all my cut flowers in, my Indian paintbrush in. But I come across those pretty often, and I'll even put them up in my vintage Western updates for my store. But those are things I look for, like glass and crystalware that I could probably use at, like, a baby shower or a birthday party. Things that are, like, really nice, but it look nice for, like, presentation, but also, like, really inexpensive. So I try to take advantage of those pieces too.
Yeah. So going back to the books, like I said, it's not super common for me to find, like, the actual really good, like, Western books around here. But I have found that if you go on eBay, you can get some good ones for a pretty good deal. So, like, I got Midnight, the Bucking Horse one, and it's a hardbound one, and it was like $6 on eBay. And, like, for what that is and the quality it's in, it was a good deal. It was a good purchase. And then I found, like, another one that was like, this is the other thing that I love about thrifting or antiquing or, like, doing any of that stuff, but you find stuff that, like, is not, you can't get today. So I got a book that it's a kid's picture book about the life of George Washington. And it's not really a picture book. It's like an early reader chapter book. But Cheyenne is able to read it because it's simple enough. And I just adore it. And it's hardcover, and it's just like it's got really nice illustrations. And it's written in a way that she can understand. And it doesn't have any of the influences of modern culture.
So nice, isn't it?
And so it's just so great. And I love it. It was probably one of my favorite things I've bought. So that's like, you can always find like the stuff that's out of print, which sometimes is actually really good quality stuff. So sometimes you can get good deals on Etsy, but it's a little bit more, people tend to know what they have on Etsy, where eBay, you get like a lot of the like, random thrift.
People cleaning out their house.
Yeah, like you either get people.
Well, and Etsy's kind of like with my shop and vintage updates, like it's kind of like their side business. So they're having to like make a profit for their time. So yeah.
But every now and then you can, I think it's good to look at both. Like I'll look and see, like if I'm looking for, especially Will James books, because sometimes you can find, so this is what I run into. If it's in really good condition, most of the time it's like incredibly expensive. But every now and then there will be a seller that apparently is not familiar. And so you'll get like a really good condition one that is not nearly as expensive as some of the other sellers. So I just like to do like a little bit of a cost comparison when I'm looking for those like specific items that way.
Yeah. Yeah, another thing I love is Frankoma, which is Oklahoma pottery. It's made in Oklahoma, but I love finding and collecting those things. And I also sell them on our vintage update too. But I can usually come across quite a bit of that because it is from Oklahoma. But it's also something I sell a lot of on my website because they're usually from out of state that's purchasing it. But they have lots of really nice Western dishes and decor and stuff.
Yeah. And like, it's so interesting, like coming from a different part of the country, because the stuff that you sell, like I have never seen that stuff around here. And so like, it doesn't matter how many times you have it, I always want it because it's so cute. And it just like, there's just like a vibe to it. And it's just, we don't have that stuff as commonly around here. But another thing I will look for is like plates or mugs that are like handmade. And they're usually like signed by the artist. I'll try and get those. Like I've come across some really good things at just the regular plain old thrift store. So I think it was like at Savers. Which I don't know if you guys have Savers out there, if they call it something else out there, but it's just like just a, take your old clothes to the thrift shop kind of place. But I found a whole set of like mugs and they all match and they're really, really cool. I don't know if I have one. Oh, I do have one down here. I'll show it. So I think that's cool. Pretty. But it's like handmade and it has like this really cool, like purpley, like, I don't know what it's made
glaze.
Of. Yeah. It's cool. And so there was like a set of like 6 of them or something and they're signed on the bottom. So I'm like, I don't know who made these, but they're cool.
Yeah, that's pretty.
And they're unique. Like I haven't seen them like that. So anyway.
Okay, so another thing I wanted to mention too, and this is just my style. Some people may not like it, but I like to thrift for old coffee cans or like cool metal containers because I like to plant my cacti and succulents in those. And so, or I like to use them as like utensil cups, like you had there with like your writing utensils or paintbrushes or whatever. But I love to thrift for like items like that. And I'll even like decorate with them like in my kitchen if it's like an old like Calumet baking powder tin that has the chief on the front. So I look for those too because I think they're neat.
I love those. I never find those. ever around here. Like that would be cool to
I've
find.
noticed around here that they're really starting to like jack the price up on those. So I
Yeah.
don't really get as many as I used to, but I like those. And we found at our local antique shop, it's been like, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago. And I haven't seen these as often. I'm pretty sure they're from like the 60s or 70s, but they're metal, but they're metal picnic baskets. And they usually have like a really pretty floral print. And the girls and I were shopping around one day and we saw they had like 3 of them. They were a little pricey, so I didn't get them, but they were so cute. And I could just picture like using them for multiple things. We would use them for picnics because we like to do picnics, but I would put like open one side up and put like folded blankets in them, like rolled up blankets or magazines or whatever. But um I love finding like metal pieces like that because they're old, they've like stood the test of time, and they're something that you don't come across and you don't see in people's homes very often.
Yeah. That reminded me of another thing that I will get is well, saddle blankets or
Yes.
blankets of any kind, really. Like, I mean, obviously that have like a Western flavor. Like if you can find a Pendleton, that's like gold. I always look for Pendletons.
Yeah.
They're
I've only come around like one of those around here, but
yeah,
it's probably because if anyone sees it, they snatch it. So,
right. And I mean, if you know what you have too, they're also going to be expensive, but
yeah.
and then so like linens, like tablecloths.
Yes.
So I have, these are not from like a store, but I have some like family heirloom tablecloths that are
Mhm.
like macrame, kind of like
The kind of like the
crocheted.
crochet, yeah.
And I just like, oh, they're my favorite. I love them, and I like use them for special occasions and like birthdays. Like if I'm doing like Cheyenne's birthday, I'll usually throw one on the table because they're just so beautiful. But I love those because a lot of times they're handmade and
Mhm.
they're just beautiful. And then the other thing is like furs. So like obviously
Yeah.
that's one of our deer that we killed, but I'll look for like hides or like it can be like as small as like a rabbit skin, but like just
Mhm.
little things like that, because you can just throw those up anywhere in your house and it like gives it such a like cool feel. Or like skulls, like
Yeah.
I have a cow skull on my desk, but yeah, anything like that to give it like a Western
Yeah.
flavor.
I like the cap hides too because I put those on like our coffee tables and then I'll put like a tray on top. But I would say like if you can come across the antique linen tablecloths or they're hand crocheted, you should totally snatch them because they are worth something. Like someone put so much time into those. My Nana has a bunch that she lets us borrow and use for special occasions. Like we use some at like our wedding, our baby showers, birthdays, and the ones that she has, my great 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 grandmother made them. So it's like they
Wow.
are generations deep, and she has some like really pretty lace ones too. But um, on like another note, as far as linens, like old bed sheets, like they're really pretty floral, like your grandmother's
Yeah.
softest bed sheets. And those, I found those are kind of hard to find, the ones that I really like that have like that classy, timeless floral print.
Yeah.
Um, but also something that I've come across, and I actually have a couple in my shop right now, are old hankies that are like really pretty
Yes.
and feminine. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love those so
Okay.
much.
One of the last vintage updates you had like those beautiful like peachy colored hankies.
Yeah.
Ugh. I can't tell you how many times I looked at those and I was like, I want to buy those so bad. They're so
Yeah.
pretty. It's like totally my
And
style.
I haven't come across those in a while, but when I do find them, I try to get them if they're like decent price and if they're not like stained and stuff. But
Right.
I just think they're really sweet to decorate with. And I'm like, we need to start bringing some of those things back. Like, my papa always has a hanky in his pocket. He's always had one ever since I was a little girl. It's one thing I remember about him. And I just thought that was always sweet. But like, women used to do that too. Like, used to carry one in their purse. So I'm
Right.
like, maybe I should start doing that, bringing
You
that
know,
trend back.
I have a feeling that's the way our culture is going to be headed, because
Yeah,
we're starting to
gonna have
kind of
to.
like turn away from the disposable culture and have to embrace the reusable culture
Yeah.
again. So another thing that reminded me of is like leather jackets. So like
Mm-hmm.
leather fringe jackets and stuff like that. I always like am drawn to those whenever I see those.
Yeah. I love hand tooled like buck stitched belts with like people's names on the back. My uncle, like, he has a leather shop and he used to make all of Red Steagall's belts.
Really?
They're friends. And so I just remember him making like belts like that, and my mom has some of her old ones, but if I come across them in an antique shop, I'll get them because I think they're cool. Like, I've sold some on the vintage Western updates too, but I think they're cool, like either rolled up or I've put them around like a cowhide pillow with like a cute little buckle. Like, it just adds something to your decor. And you could have an old pillow that's been on your couch forever, and then you could add that and just like gives your space a new look. So it's crazy what you can use to decorate with that you wouldn't think about until you start like antiquing and thrifting, and it kind of breeds some creativity. And it's fun.
Yeah.
And you save money. So it's like a win-win all the way around. But
Yeah.
yeah, my girls have gotten into it now. Like, they really enjoy it. They'll like do some work for my grandparents and like earn money and stuff. And a lot of the times they'll ask me like, "Hey mom, can we go to that antique shop?" And like, they'll take their money, and it's like a lesson too, because they're like, okay, we have this much, and I'm trying to teach them about like sales tax and all of that. So they'll like kind of thrift around, and then they'll find something, and then they'll find something else, and it makes them pick what they really, really like, and it's made them think about what they would like use it for. So
Right.
it's been really fun
That's
to do that with
awesome.
them. But yeah. And one more thing too is I have a record. I've always had a record player, but we have a record player in our living room. And so I'm always looking for like old vinyl records. And usually it can be like any genre as long as I like the artist or the band. But I have come across like some old Western swing albums that I love or that I grew up on. And so I always think those are like gems to come across those, because you don't always see those in stores. You usually see like the rock band or
Right.
some country albums or something, but
Right.
those are fun.
Yeah, my mom inherited a bunch of old records from her mom, and then we got a few records when Cody's grandparents passed, and then the rest of them went to his mom. So they're it's just like, that is so cool to me, just like having that like stash of like old records.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them, it's so special for like our moms, because that's what they grew up listening to. And so they're like, oh, I remember like listening to this album when I was 6, like, and I just think that's so cool. And I feel like it's so sad that like our kids these days don't have like that physical, like object, like, oh yeah, I remember listening to this record, like
They don't
they're
even
like,
have a CD. They
no,
don't even have a CD. They're like,
no.
will you pull up Spotify?
I know. It's like such a strange world.
I remember growing up with cassette tapes, in my dad's truck.
Right.
We'd have to put the tape in.
Exactly. And rewinding the tape.
My mom, yes.
Oh,
my
flip
mom
it
still
over to
has,
side B.
yes. My mom had some tapes one time, and I think it was Paisley. She was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "It's a cassette tape. It's what you used to listen to music on." She was like, "On this thing?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yep. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Not cassette tapes. My mom has a stash of cassette tapes, but she also has kept like all of her VHS tapes. So like when
Yeah,
my
we
kids
have
go over
those
to their
too.
house, they're like, "Can we watch a movie?" And they actually still have a VHS player that will play them. And I'm like,
Yeah, my mom
sure.
does too. Yeah, she kept all of mine, and like even some of the old ones, like Old Yeller and
Mm-hmm.
the really old ones. And I think she may still have like the rewinder. Like you were really uptown if you had a rewinder.
Oh yeah,
I remember growing up.
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, they think they have more fun with that than like DVDs or
Yeah.
whatever. They like the VHS tapes.
Yeah. So another thing that I thought of, I haven't actually bought any from a store. I've just gotten them like handed down, but like the old Gunne Sax dresses from
Yeah.
the 70s, because they're like so vintage and like so like pioneerish. Like I love them. I have two of
Hmm.
them hanging. And then like old Western shirts.
Yep.
That is like such a cool thing if you can find those. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, so do you ever go to like estate sales to find stuff?
Yes, I actually had that written down. So like we need to talk like aside from your antique stores, um, or your little thrift shops, there's obviously like festivals like Antiques Week at Junk Gypsy, Round Top,
Right,
all of
right.
that. Um, and Facebook Marketplace is also an excellent place that I have found like cool furniture pieces. But like Talia said, estate sales are awesome because you never know what you're going to come across. And a lot of the times, like these families have like, they just want to get rid of it. They're
Right.
done.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, take it all. And so, actually, my mom and my grand, they went to an estate sale just down the road from us. It was a ranch, and they were able to get like a whole bunch of concrete feeders and T-post, and um, we were able to get like a couple nice water troughs for the girls' show sheep because those are expensive, and
Yeah.
it was like it was in fine condition. We just needed to wash it out.
Right.
But it like aside from like cool finds and antiques and decor and stuff, like just for like ranch things, like if you're a homesteader and you're on a budget, like those are the places I would go for like some equipment you might need, tools, anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, estate sales are so much fun. I love going to those.
So I've like, that's like, when I have like a bunch of extra money, that's like my dream, is just to like go and do like estate sale prowls like on the weekends.
Yeah.
So like my aunt is a huge thrifter. Like she's probably the biggest thrifter I know in real life, but she would go to like all the thrift shops and the antique shops. She knows like all of them in the whole valley. She knows which ones have the best prices, like all that. But she used to go like yard sale prowling like every Saturday morning. Like she'd take all of her kids and they would just go hit the yard sales like and find all the cool stuff. And that is where I found some of the best stuff because people are just trying to get rid of it. And they,
Yeah.
it's like, especially if you're looking for furniture, I feel like yard sales and estate sales are like the way to go because furniture is the thing at the antique stores that's always like marked way up.
Super
and
expensive.
then like I don't buy new furniture ever.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking for a set of chairs for a kitchen table right now, and I'm just looking on Facebook Marketplace, and I just have like my little notifications turned on for like this kind of item and that kind of item, like just in case like it's the right price and it's the right look, and then I'll be able to snag it maybe. I've missed out on a lot because people are like sharks on there. It's like you have to be like, I will pay right now and I will be there in 30 minutes. And that's like what you have to say. You can't say, is this still available? No, you have to say, I'm coming to your house. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Like,
I'm on my way. I don't know where you live, but I'm on my way.
Seriously, like, it's crazy. But there's been some good stuff on there.
Yeah.
I think it's really one of those things where you just have to, like, take a few minutes. Like, if you're really seriously looking for something, but, like, take a few minutes every day and just, like, kind of, like, breeze through and see if there's anything new. Because stuff goes just so fast on there, but you can get so many good deals. And so I think Facebook Marketplace is, like, gold when it comes to furniture, at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we wanted to touch on.
I would just say, like, as far as some tips when you're at the antique stores or thrift shops, because it's not like a commercial store, like a big box store or a boutique where it's like, no, like these are brand new things. The price is what it is. You know, you're not going to say, hey, will you take $5 less, you know, at a clothing store? But at antique shops and thrift shops, you know, you can say, hey, if I buy such and such, or do you bundle, or would you take less if I bought more? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say yes, and give you somewhat of a deal. So like, don't be afraid to ask. It never hurts to ask. And if they don't, they don't. That's fine. But that's just another way to save a little bit if you're on a budget like we are.
Well, and that's a good point. I mean, when we talk about, like, thrifting and antiquing, like, we're not, like, going out there, like, every weekend spending, like, hundreds of dollars on this stuff.
No.
It's like, it's pretty rare that, especially right now, like, we haven't gone for quite a while. But, you know, I still kind of will look every now and then just to see. And it, like, if I have something specific, like when I was redoing my kids' playroom, like, there was a few things that I was specifically looking for, so I was kind of hunting for those. But it's good to just go and browse, and if you have a little bit of money to spend or whatever, go and browse and see if you can pick up a few things to freshen up your space, whatever that is. Because you never know, like, this last spring, that in my kitchen, like above where our kitchen table is, there's some curtain, I don't even know, there's like some molding that goes over the top of, like, where our curtains are. And so I decorate, like, I put a bunch of little, like, items up at the top. And I just, I had I didn't actually get anything new, I don't think, but I just kind of, like, moved some stuff from different areas of my house and switched it out. And they were older items, like some, like, bread tins and stuff that I just used to decorate, or switched out the vases or whatever. And just doing that, like, freshened it up quite a bit. It made a really big difference. So if you don't have money to get all brand new stuff, shop your house and just move things around. And, you know, if it's been in one area for quite a while, see if you can move it to a different room, or because it makes a big difference sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I just love things that you're not going to see in everyone else's house.
Right.
And it also, like, speaks to your own personal style.
Right. All right. Well, I think we're about to our time. That was pretty good. Pretty good in-depth
just kind of
episode.
A fun little episode. Yeah, so if you're on our social media, if you're not, go follow us. But when we post, hop on and tell us, like, some of your favorite items that you like to thrift or find or go look for or decorate with, because I'm always intrigued by what people are drawn towards in antique stores, like what my mom sees and finds. I love it, but it's usually complete opposite of what I like look for or what my eye is drawn to. So I'm always curious to see what people lean towards when they're like thrifting and antiquing and stuff. Like Talia said boots earlier. One of my favorite pairs of boots I've bought was from an antique shop. So it's just, I'm always interested in that.
Yeah.
And where your favorite place is. Like, even if you're local or not, if we ever get to visit your area one day, I would love to have a list of places that we could go and look and peruse through.
Yeah, that was one thing. When I came out to Oklahoma back in May, we went to the Pioneer Woman Mercantile and like all of her stores and everything, but there was like a couple of antique stores that are right there, and I wanted to go in, but I didn't have time. We had to go catch our flight, so
Yeah.
maybe next time.
I'm always surprised at the little towns. Like, a lot of the little towns actually have some like really, really good gems. So I always Google if I have a little extra time and I'm driving through somewhere I don't typically go through. I'll just kind of do a quick Google search and say, hey, do they have any shops? And if they do and I have time, I'll pop in, because you never know. You never know what you're going to come across. So.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, I think we'll end it there. But we hope you guys have fun with your thrifting and antiquing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of it just out of necessity in the future. Kind of, especially like being creative with what you do find, because things are just getting expensive. And so sometimes it's nice to just be able to get something that's a little bit cheaper, but probably twice as nice. So,
Yep.
All right. Well, we hope you guys have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for listening to the Paintbrush Prairie podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you don't mind, would you please leave us a rating and review?
This will help more ladies find us, and it will help us make the show even better. If you know a fellow Western homemaker who would enjoy the podcast, will you please share it with them?
If you'd like to support the podcast, you can become a patron at patreon.com/paintbrushprairie. You can follow us on Instagram at paintbrushprairie.
You can find me, Kenzie, on Instagram at _farmgirl and my blog, farmgirlblogs.com, to see what I'm up to on the ranch, Western home inspiration, or subscribe to my meal plan subscription at farmgirlblogs.com/hayfield-meals. You can also shop for unique Western goods at my rural boutique and general store, farmgirlboutique.com.
You can follow me, Talia, on Instagram at The Pinion Range, or my Western art page at Wapiti Sage Design. You can also purchase my artwork or book a custom piece at wapitisagedesign.com. I also blog over at thepinionrange.com, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, where I share the behind the scenes of my life as a Western artist and homesteader.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. See you next time from the Paintbrush Prairie.